Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie right here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Brought to you in part by Water Cleanup of Florida. Hey, you South Florida property owners, with or without an insurance claim, do you have any issues? Have you seen any problems? Whether it be water, fire, mold damage, are you about to stress out? Don't stress out. I have the answer for you. Water Cleanup of Florida, with over 60 years of combined experience between Michael, Robert, and their team, plus with contractors on staff. They not only will come out and find whatever ails you when it comes to your home, they'll also fix it. One easy place for you. And what's great is you can contact them 24/7. Just call 954-579-0356. 954-579-0356 for Water Cleanup of Florida. If you mention 5 Reasons or Lubie, 5 Reasons or Lubie, you'll get a free inspection during business hours. Plus, you can check them out on their website, WCUFL.com. Also, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Water Cleanup FL, Water Cleanup of Florida. They will make your life easy if you do have any issue with your home. So check them out again. Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. It felt a little schmutzy for the Philadelphia 76ers heading into their series with our Miami Heat last night. The Miami Heat dispatched of the Atlanta Hawks in 5 games. Their defense has been tremendous, but Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero really were not much on the offensive end. Plus, Kyle Lowry seemed to be out. Jimmy Butler missed some time at the end of the series versus the Hawks. So there were question marks going into game one. Well, those questions were answered as the Sixers are without Joel Embiid, in large part to their head coach, Doc Rivers. We had a Dateline Dolphins with John Congemi today, but we did talk a lot of Heat, a little bit of Panthers, and a lot of Dolphins as we are recapping the NFL draft that happened going into the weekend. So here we talk about the Miami Heat and wonder how much Doc Rivers had to do with the Heat winning this series. Look, I thought the Heat would win this series regardless, but Doc Rivers may have made it a lot easier with how he treated Joel Embiid at the end of their series versus the Raptors. We talked about that right here. The Devo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
We welcome to the show, and welcome to the Defo Show. If you're just joining us here, and the return of Michael Lubitz, return of the live programs. And there's nothing more live right now than this cat. And that is John Congemi as we go. We call it Dateline Dolphins, but it's a very expansive conversation. And John, you're looking great as always. Thanks so much for being with us here on the show.
Oh, good to join you guys today. Lubie, how was your trip?
My trip was great, man. Greece is definitely a place that makes you feel like you're in a movie. Like you see these views like Santorini and Mykonos. It's like, okay, it looks like, the screensaver that pops up that you're like, where is that? Amazing. Yeah. Like the colors and the water and the mountains. It's just spectacular. So we had a great trip and very happy to be back. How you doing, sir?
Awesome. I'm doing great, man. I heard you guys talking about the Heat. They put a beat down on them last night, huh?
Yeah. What do you think about this? I mean, being a sports person that's been involved in different situations with coaches and everything, and we've seen it before. I'm not usually one to go out of my way to blame a guy for, a guy gets hurt in a spot. I remember when Jimmy had Zach Thomas, Jimmy Johnson had Zach Thomas in a preseason game in Mexico, and he was on special teams. And he injured himself. I don't know if it cost him many regular season games or any for that matter, but everybody was like screaming, how the bleep could you put Zach Thomas in a preseason game on special teams? And Jimmy's explanation was, well, he plays special teams during the regular season. So, we're practicing special teams. He was out there practicing. And, you could look at that and say, all right, that makes some sense. Although, we all know now that the preseason has finally been devalued to the point where people realize that it's not worth, taking any risks during the preseason in any capacity. But Doc Rivers leaves Joel Embiid in this game. That they're up 29. I don't know if you caught this, John. They're up 29 over Toronto. 4 minutes to go. They put a stat up that teams in this situation are like 2,453-0. Never lost. All right. Now, and earlier this year, it's interesting because Gino Auriemma, who's known to just leave his starters in the whole game, with 38 seconds to go, he finally pulls one of his starters, even though they're up 70 over some prep school that they're playing in preparation for their regular conference season. And he'll leave these people in the game, and he doesn't care that he bludgeons the other team. And we see stories about high school teams. Oh, well, can you believe this? It was 144 to nothing. You might have been a part of those games at St. Thomas. Now, were you still in the game?
No, George.
Was George Smith leaving you in there when you were up by 9 touchdowns with 6 minutes to go?
No, when I was younger, I was one of the guys that got to go in and get experience. And then when I got to be a senior, I was one of the guys coming out of the game. Yeah, you're right.
You want your guys playing in garbage time that have been on the bench, especially in a series clinching game. You got out of a very tough first round, which became difficult when all of a sudden your team absolutely collapsed for 2 ball games. Embiid was nursing an injury also. So how is this guy not under? I guess he got some criticism, but he answered it like with a blasé answer. Oh yeah, well, what the hell? They had their guys in. Like, of course they had their guys in. They're down 29 points, but you could have got by with any scrubs. I was saying earlier this morning that they could have pulled Dr. J out there and Iverson from the stands, and they still would have held him off. So what do you think? Did Doc Rivers deserve a lot more scrutiny for what looks like blowing the second round of the playoffs by not having Embiid available to him for at least a couple of games, maybe more?
Well, yeah, just look at what the start of this series against the Heat is going to look like. It's not going to be a true indication of what the 76ers are as a team. And, you're up by so many points. I think as head coaches, you control your team. No matter what the other team's doing, you can control your roster. You can control your substitutions. You can control tempo and pace of a game, especially when it's out of hand. So the other team doesn't substitute. You can still get your studs kind of out of the game in terms of, not exposing them to any kind of risk going down the stretch because the game's in hand. They're, as you said, it's undefeated. You're not going to come back from that type of deficit. And even if you go on a 10-0 run, you're still down 19.
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to do? At that point, you're
maybe with 2 minutes left. Yeah.
Your starters, right? So, yeah, I think he deserved a much more criticism for leaving one of the most impactful guys for the way your team plays in, exposing him in a game that's over.
Crazy, right? He gets elbowed in the eye, and there goes, you would have to think any chance they had, it was going to be, from my thought, a competitive series anyway,
yes.
But certainly a lot more competitive for Philadelphia if they had their key guy in there. I mean, everything, you can have James Harden. He has up and down games. He's been okay in spots, spectacular at times, but also, his usual disappearing act he's done at times in key ball games for the Sixers down the stretch. And Maxi's come along, but without Embiid, they literally have nothing. And, I don't know if that ever happened to you. Like when you played basketball recreationally or wherever, I'm assuming you were pretty good. Were you not a point guard for the St. Thomas Hoops team?
I was for a little while until the baseball coach said that I could play as a sophomore on baseball if I skipped basketball. So I skipped my junior and senior year of basketball. Yeah, but I did play growing up. Yes. Okay,
so were you ever in this spot? Now it happens to be true, even though it seems like something that I would have completely made up. But we used to go to this place in Merrick, Long Island, and the one game, it was sort of like almost new to have like a park that had baskets that weren't sideways and a ripped chain net and lights and everything. So this became a hot spot for Long Island basketball. And the court would be occupied 3-on-3, one team that would just, they were out there, the first team out. Dr. J, the actual Dr. J, he was 16. He's my age, and he was going to high school on Long Island. Dick McGuire, the former coach of the New York Knicks, who was in his 50s and was the dirtiest player I've ever gone against in any sport. And a kid that Jim Larinaga was the arch rival of in high school, which he had a spectacular New York high school career. Named Eddie Malloy, right? So they would start out, and that was the three, and good teams would come out there and challenge them. So I got into some of these games when I was 16, and you knew you were going to lose. I mean, Dr. J, he wasn't the flamboyant Dr. J then, and he would just stand under the basket and tomahawk dunk when nobody dunked.
Yeah, no one's dunking in like the 60s.
McGuire would hit you right in the balls, I mean, with a headbutt as you were inbounding the ball. I mean, and you were, crippled for the rest of the game. And this kid Eddie Malloy was just as sharp as anybody at distributing the ball. I mean, it was like having Steve Nash going against you. So you'd lose that game, and you go down to the other end of the court there and challenge like a guy like a father, and they weren't even using a basketball; they were using like a beach ball. And he was with like his son and daughter that were both like 6 and maybe 8. And that's what it was like for the Heat last night without Embiid in the game. I mean, they went from that Dr. J game whoosh, right down to the other end, say, hey, yeah, you want to run some 3-on-3? And Adebayo, I mean, had nothing to go against last night. So, wow, I think Doc Rivers just absolutely cost them
the
series
good for the
with a
Heat.
bozo move in a previous game.
Take advantage of the situation that's presented to you, right? If you can get out to a quick 2-0, 3-0 lead in this series and put it away at home when it comes back. I mean, Hero had a great game. Bam had a great game. You feel like you're getting a little bit more healthy in terms of what you can do. So, yeah, I'd take advantage early in this series and make leave no doubt to where this series is headed.
It was great, too. Every expert had the Celtics in like 5 over Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And then, I didn't see this game, but the Bucks just crushed the Celtics.
Well, Giannis was
Chris
amazing.
Middleton in game 1. And that comes as a surprise. I don't know if you've been following the Celtics, but, man, I mean, they came on so strongly from the All-Star game on, and we're the best team, far and away in basketball, I think, maybe with the exception of the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
But we don't know how good the West is. People are saying they don't have the depth that the East does. But, I mean, it just goes to show you, we've been saying this for a long time, John, if you could book the media's action, you would be a rich man today. But, no, that loomed as a very interesting turnaround in terms of swaying public opinion. All right, let's get to the draft and what you thought about that. I mean, there wasn't much to be said for the Dolphins except they essentially traded their draft to get a dynamic player like Tyreek Hill, and they did some other things in free agency. We've discussed it many times. Seems like solid moves. Did you see anything in their drafting that was an indication that the organization is still going in the right direction and on the right path in terms of philosophy?
Well, the Miami Dolphins, I mean, when you look at it, they had 4 picks. So it wasn't going to be, detrimental to the point of, well, it's a disaster. We didn't find anybody to help the team, or it wasn't going to be on the other side where you go, wow, we found these 4 guys. They're going to turn around the franchise, this year. I think they tried to do that, as you said, in free agency. When you get a dynamic wide receiver in Tyreek Hill, you bolster the offensive line with Armstead on the left side and a guard coming from Dallas. But in the draft, you get an action-packed linebacker with speed that probably can help you situationally once he gets accustomed to the way that the NFL plays. You don't want to be too over-pursued to the point where you run yourself out of plays. And I think Tyndall from Georgia was surrounded by a lot of talent on that defense. One of the best defenses in college football.
They 5 first-round picks.
Take a look at the numbers.
They set the record.
Yeah, they had 2 defensive tackles go to the same team. They had all their linebackers go. I mean, it's amazing what they were able to assemble on a college football team on that side of the ball. But you get one of those impactful players, and I think that's going to help bolster the roster. You get a tall wide receiver. You lose one in Devontae Parker. He goes to the Patriots. So you get a 6'2", 6'3" wide receiver that maybe if Williams doesn't work out on the outside, you get a young guy out there, but you're primarily going to be playing in the slot with your playmakers and hopefully running the football more effectively. You get an outside pass rushing linebacker from Cal that's a guy like a tweener, long arms, can get around the edge. And then you get a quarterback that you want to, hopefully get you through training camp, expose him to an offense, see if he can be on the practice roster if he's that guy. But he's not going to be asked to play this year or maybe next. So, the draft was the draft for the Dolphins. They had 4 picks. I thought, they were able to get a couple of linebackers, get a wide receiver for depth, and move on with the moves they've already made. So I think it was successful before the draft, and it still stays the same way. Their team was made in the offseason, not in the draft, but in free agency.
Well, John, and what I've liked so far, and I've been very hard on Chris Greer, I still don't the verdict to me is out on Chris Grier. But I've liked the way Mike McDaniel sort of brought everyone, I don't know about down, to his level. Like, you're now seeing Chris Grier. We've made fun of Chris Grier. Where's he been? Well, he was in every press conference, every interview with Mike McDaniel, right? They're together in lockstep, which you haven't seen ever for the Dolphins. Like, that's always been their issue is we always joke too many cooks in the kitchen, too many people. There's infighting, this and that. Like, it feels like Mike McDaniel's like, I got you, Chris Grier. Come with me. They're going to like you now. And he's cracking jokes. He's talking about on Twitter. And, well, during the first round, we're just going to watch Tyreek Hill highlights. You know, like little jokes that you would normally not get from Dolphins brass. Very sort of peeling the curtain back about, we know what we did. We're not hiding from it. We're confident about it. And we're ready to have some fun. And to me, their picks sort of felt like that. Like, Tyndall is a guy that was really good and could have gone an early second round, where instead of they've overdrafted like with Noah and Austin Jackson, they got guys that were just hanging around, best available guys that will probably play. And he actually fits alongside Jerome Baker, where instead of throwing a guy into a spot that he doesn't fit, they're finding people that fit their system, and they're all fast. Like, the receiver's like a 4.37 guy. Like, they're all guys that are underdrafted, but Mike McDaniel has done things within the past, and it feels like they're on the same page. Like, when they ask McDaniel these questions, like, look, Chris Grier liked him, I liked him, we drafted him. You know, like, the way they're talking is something you haven't heard from the Dolphins, I don't know, since Shula. Like, I don't remember them being this transparent and this fun, and I'm at least right now, I'm liking it.
Well, you should. And the Dolphins like to throw around words like collaborative and transparency and doing all that stuff. But I don't know if they've ever walked the walk
exactly
in terms of pulling back the curtain. And I think the personality sometimes of a head coach, if it's that obvious to people that he's not going to change, he's going to be this way, whether this is an interview for Sunday Night Football or whether it's an interview, you know, with the local media after, you know, making 4 selections in the 2022 draft. He's going to be the same way. And sometimes that rubs off in the front office. It rubs off. Sometimes it rubs off on your football team. And you hope that they take on that personality. I think for all the, you know, good things or bad things you might want to say about Brian Flores, I think some of the good things were that his tough personality in terms of being serious and demanding about the little things rubbed off on the football team.
Yes.
And where did it show up? It showed up in getting rid of the pre-snap penalties.
Yep.
It turned up in discipline. It turned up about showing up and being accountable, being on time, doing all the little things that got this franchise from a 5-win team to a 9 and 10 win season.
Yep.
So I don't think those things can be discounted. Now, can this McDaniel personality where it's more lax, it's more laid back, it's more, you know, kind of just letting it flow off the tip of your tongue, whatever comes to, you know, to the front of your brain is going to come out of my lips, whether that rubs off on the team, whether they play to, you know, right on the edge, they're a team that can kind of, you know, lay it out on the line. They're going to be a gambling team. They're going to be a creative team. They're going to be a team that has a little razzle dazzle in their play calling. Or are they going to be hard-nosed and run the football, play action, be kind of, you know, predictable, but so good you can't stop them?
Yep.
All the stuff is kind of out in front of the Miami Dolphins right now. You don't know what to expect, but you're excited about it because you as the fan, as you are, Lubie, you're kind of receiving all this information going, yeah, I understand. I agree with that. Man, he really told me what he was thinking. Now, whether that's 100% true or not, we'll see how it plays out. But at least you feel like you're involved and you're getting the truth from this organization.
A little frightening that Lubie is so enthusiastic about this whole new approach. And that's strike one, is it not? Right there in the corner. I mean, you're like, hey, you really? You took that pitch? You have to be kidding me. There's no bigger bullshit press conference either than the general manager, both before and after the draft, comes out there to address the media.
You just want to
I've been to a few.
Right in your thigh.
Yeah.
Just to keep yourself alive, you know.
Oh, yeah. You know, we love this kid out of Purdue. And then, you know, it's the last thing on earth they ever intended to do. And then the media overreacts to everything that's said, which is why it was hysterical when I was watching the first round. We knew the first two picks were going to be what they were, or so it seemed. That sort of became established. And then by number 3, everybody was mystified,
Yeah.
which, and I was saying they had Booger McFarland out there and Louis Riddick on ESPN. I was watching Mike Greenberg, and each guy named like 7 players for that number 3 pick that would all be a perfect fit. And then they went to Mel, who was on a remote, Kiper. And, I tend to respect Mel Kiper. I mean, he invented this whole genre. And, I don't think he's full of crap, but, he was way off. And, you're thinking, so what is the point of all of this conversation? Like, nobody has any bleeping idea what the hell they're talking about.
It's like a dartboard. You kind of just throw everything out, and then when they come back to you, well, I said that was the guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, a great pick. Yeah, they never mentioned the guy's name. It was crazy.
I have such a funny story. You guys, because I hit delete on this selection. Do you remember when the Dolphins? Had to be 10 years ago, at least, maybe 8 or 10. They went up to number 3 and they picked the defensive end from Oregon.
Oregon, yes, we all remember.
Yeah,
Jordan. You already forgot Deion Jordan. I remember very well.
Deion Jordan. Okay. So we're doing a show. We're doing a draft show from whatever Hard Rock Stadium was called at the time.
Yeah.
And we're going through the picks, and Keith Sims, great Dolphin offensive guard. Keith always liked to be right. Okay.
Very articulate and opinionated.
Yes,
also.
Right, we love Sims. Yep.
So. No one knows that the Dolphins are going to go from wherever we were all the way up to 3. And if we're going to 3, we're getting Lane Johnson.
Offensive
I
lineman.
guess he was the tackle that went to the Eagles the pick after. But we're going to go get this tackle because we need offensive linemen.
Yep.
Somebody must have given the word to Keith at who we selected, who we're going to select. And out of nowhere, he hasn't even mentioned this guy's name in 4 months as we're preparing for the draft. And he goes, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins go up and select, Deion Jordan from Oregon. We're all looking around, and 15 seconds later, they go, the Dolphins have traded up, and he acted like he knew exactly what he was doing. And it reminded me of the guys on ESPN and all the shows on TV, because they just started throwing names up just because they figured, well, he didn't say that guy. I might as well say this guy. And if I'm right, I look smart.
I had inside information once, and it turned out to be accurate, on the Dolphins draft pick when they selected Ronnie Brown, number 2, in the 2005, I want to say, NFL draft. And a neighbor of mine was pretty connected in the sports world. He had been a coach with the Oklahoma Outlaws and also had been with the Missouri team as a defensive coordinator on the college ranks. What was it? Woody Woodenhofer? Was that the guy's name? That was his guy? Yeah. And Jim McKinley was my neighbor's name. And he comes running across the street, and usually it was about some score he made at a casino at the track that he was coming to tell me about. But he says, I got one for you, Defo. And he had inside information that the Dolphins had already had some negotiations with Ronnie Brown, the running back out of Auburn. And now almost everybody thought, well, geez, they're going to either take Alex Smith or
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, whoever's available, right? Right? They both got off the bus, 1-2.
Yes.
And I remember going on a show with Jimmy Cephalo, and he said, well, what do you think, Defo? And I said, well, I believe they're going to take Ronnie Brown. And, he wasn't even the best guy at Auburn, and Jimmy's like, well, what do you know? What are you, some kind of comic?
Yeah,
of course. Gotta be funny. I mean, we're trying to do a serious draft show here, and you're making jokes? It was like a scene out of Goodfellas. And sure enough, they take Ronnie Brown. And it was like, wow, that was a mind blower too, because turned out to be a very unfortunate pick. I mean, when you really look at it, that was a transformational franchise, draining and damning pick that they made in that draft. All right, the magic question, though, John Congemi, is not anything about these players. And now you have to keep in mind, and I have to keep reminding myself that it's a 17-game season now. So over under 8.5. I thought that was a pretty modest number. Over under 8.5 Miami Dolphins in a 17-game season. I might have gone over in a 16-game season. So what do you think? Is this a sucker bet? And the real people who know everything, the line makers and odds makers in Las Vegas, Are they onto something that we are unsuspecting of?
No, I think last year I did a show on FOR4 down in Miami before the season, and I think everybody was 11 wins, 12 wins, and I was going, I don't know, I'm gonna
That was
say 8.
Segredo. That was the old influence of Segredo.
Wait.
I don't know. That's a pretty good number by Vegas, 8 and a hook, because it's right around that number. I could see 7. I can
Really?
see 9.
Wow.
I don't see double digits.
No.
Oh, really?
I don't.
Oh, John, I thought you were as high on the team as Lubie is. Lubie has them going like 17-0.
I don't see
Perfect
this team
season.
beating. I don't see this team beating Buffalo again once, and I don't see this team sweeping the Jets. Not with the draft they had.
Wow.
I really don't.
All right, we'll get into see now there's a man, a rational man, right? I mean, he's been on the Dolphins payroll, and yet he's not afraid to say, "Hey, look, 7 and a hook might be a real proposition here." All right, so 8.5 is a number. I would be inclined to go over. I think they're going to be good. I really do.
I think it's like we've heard in years past. Like they could be better, but they're scared. The AFC's like not
loaded.
Human.
There's
there's only like 3 bad teams in the whole conference.
Just when you thought the Jets were going to be a layup, those are 2 wins. New England's kind of down. Yeah, the quarterback played well last year, but he might regress a little bit in year 2, trying to figure out he can do more than he really needs to. I don't know. I mean, unless you can beat Buffalo one time, I think that's the game. You have to sweep the Jets if you're going to get to 9, right? You have to. And you have to probably sweep New England if you're going to get to 9. Take a look at that schedule.
Wow.
I don't know.
Let me call Lipschitz and call off that bet that I just made.
No, but Defo, go with your gut. I'm saying I'm just me.
I've been going with my gut for too long.
That's the problem. I'd rather go with you.
I just think when you look at teams in the over/under, how do they do in their division?
Yeah.
Right. If the Dolphins were ever going to get to the playoffs, no matter what year it is, the worst they can do is 4-2.
Yeah.
You can't go 500 in your division and get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not with the parity in the National Football League, especially not with the AFC being so strong. If you're going to go out and play the Chargers, if you got Denver now with Russell Wilson, you've got a bunch of teams that are, I can't remember the Dolphins' schedule in terms of, I think they had the North. So you've got, Kenny Pickett, a rookie quarterback with a really good defense in Pittsburgh. You've got Deshaun Watson now in Cleveland. You've got Cincinnati coming off a Super Bowl appearance. And you've got Baltimore that's going to be Baltimore. That's always the Dolphins' nemesis, trying to beat those guys. So I'm just trying to add them up, and I'm not getting to 10. Maybe get to 9, but I don't get to double digits.
All right, we'll have Tony on tomorrow. I'll have him at 12. You remember when he did that thing? Speaking of, I guess he was on Channel 4 and Channel 6 because they
switched numbers.
They did like a Mike Kekich, Fritz Peterson thing where they swapped stations. It was like swapping wives with the Yankees many years ago, and he used to get up there as soon as the schedule came out, and we always kind of mocked Tony a little bit, and with all affection, but. We used to have to stand up there, and they would literally say, okay, Putin has used nuclear weapons in the Ukraine, but the Dolphins' schedule just came out, so here's Tony Segredo. Like, what? And Tony would have to go, okay, Buffalo, that's a win. Then they lose to New England. So very difficult to do because you don't know, what kind of shape these teams are going to be in by the time you get to the meeting.
When you play them, yeah.
What if Allen's out for Buffalo in both games? I mean, who the hell knows? It's possible that anything can happen. So, but I think the Dolphins, I don't know. I think they're going to be an okay team this year. They can't be much worse than they were last year. And they, started out 1-7 and came back and rallied 1-8 out of 9. So,
yeah, there's only a couple of guarantees when you look at a Dolphins schedule. If you see Buffalo in week 16 or 17 in Buffalo, that's no bueno.
No, forget about that. You may as well be back in Saskatchewan, John.
Yeah, it's brutal. New England's more doable, but the Buffalo games,
Big thank you to John Congemi for joining us on these Dateline Dolphins days. He's always brought to us, thanks to Jimmy Johnson, Big Chill of Key Largo. The Miami Heat are set up in a good spot, up 1-0 over the Philadelphia 76ers, Game 2. Wednesday, we also talked a little bit about the Panthers as they start their playoff run, trying to win their first series since the mid to late 90s tonight. And the Miami Dolphins had their draft. We're very high on the Dolphins. John Congemi brought us down here. This guy who works with the Dolphins on CBS 4 and also just for the Dolphins. And he's very honest. Look, he thought they were a solid team, and they made great additions. But the AFC is stacked. It just is. I mean, there's 12 teams that are playoff contenders in the AFC, and they have, 16 teams? So there's only, 8 spots? So, yeah, it's not, or 7, I guess 7. It used to be 6, now an extra team. So 7 playoff spots, 12 teams. So, yes, the Dolphins can have a good year and still not make the playoffs, true. And the Dolphins can have a good year and still only win 8 games. I personally believe they'll win 9, 10 plus games. I think people aren't accounting really for not only the moves they made, but just how much Tua's going to be better. He'll have a better line, have a better run game. He'll have much better receivers. The defense was already good. He'll have a coach that will call an offense that's suitable to him, plus another year away from injury, plus another year of strength and building size. You're not accounting for that. So I think, yes, the AFC is ridiculously strong. I also think the Dolphins will be a lot much stronger. And I'm looking for a big year for the Dolphins. We're excited about that. We're excited to talk to you again tomorrow, right here on the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. With Lubie, recently we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go into court without an attorney? So why would you go up against an insurance company without Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa? 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Give them a call at 954-809-8752. Why go up against insurance companies alone when you can have Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa on your side?
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?